Buddy, we're going to get started here in just a second. I know we got a couple of different platforms watching right now, so we're going to give it just a second here. All right, I think we're ready to get started. So yeah, guys, I just want to jump on live here. We've had this thing since we've started. A saying we actually had it made into a T-shirt because it was kind of what described us and what we were aiming for with all of this, and that was kind of just a perspective of we are Christians, we are following Christians, God-fearing Christians. We are people that walk our lives in faith, but it was finding stoicism years ago that really kind of helped me gain perspective in the framework of life. And I know some people would argue and say, well, isn't that what Christianity is supposed to do? And yes, absolutely. There's an immense amount of things that we can use to walk a good, pure, virtuous life through Christianity. What Stoicism does is it comes in from roughly the same time perspective as Christianity. We're talking maybe just a year or two apart, depending on the historians that believe, it's either Seneca or Christ were born around the same time or just within a couple of years of each other. But basically, they walked at the same time. Two different perspectives on how to live a life, and both perspectives were amazing. So, the differentiation between Stoicism and Christianity is the afterlife perspective. And so, in my faith, I believe that there is a life after this one. I believe I was created by a benevolent God and that I follow a virtuous life. My belief in Stoicism is that I believe virtue is the highest form of happiness. I believe that having temperance, wisdom, justice, and control over my life, having those things are important to me. Let me just give you kind of a case in point. Before I found Stoicism, I heavily relied just on my Christianity, and it got me through so many dark times, got me through so many rough points in my life. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am that I was introduced to it as a young age. And for those of you who've come into it as adults, fantastic, that's wonderful. But I was thankful that I had it as a young age and it kind of helped me through my youth. It was in my darkest times that I felt the strongest, pull to follow God, to be strong for Him. And then several years ago, my uncle, who was an ordained minister, but also a doctor, he was a doctor of English. He also was very much in on things like Greek culture, Greek rhetoric, things like that. So, what he would do is he would give me little snippets of philosophy, psychology, things like that. So, what we would do is we would kind of have these great discussions. And I talked to him about philosophy and I said, hey, what is the things, I should be looking for? Because I'm really into Western philosophy. He said, consider the Stoics. As a Christian, consider the Stoics. And how we should be using those things in our lives. And so I started to deep dive into Stoicism. And at that time, I was dealing with a job where I had a lot of anxiety, had a lot of stress. Things weren't great in my personal life because I felt like I was not treating my family the best way, not treating my wife the best way. And when I started incorporating those things in with my Christianity, that is when I really started to feel myself change as a person. And then I realized there's two different things. There is the faith aspect that I need in my life. That is God blessing us. That is God giving us wisdom, guidance, direction, those things I need. But I also need framework because here on earth, how am I most successful when I deal with things like my business, my job, my family, the stress that I have for those things. So thankfully, those are the things that really kind of help push me forward and having both of those. So that's what this whole thing is about. Tonight, I'm just going to talk about the desire for worldly advantage and look at it from both a Christian standpoint and a Stoic standpoint and how they can work together with that. So first of all, doesn't everybody kind of just want that advantage? We're kind of pushing for that next big thing. We're trying to find the big mansion, the big home, the big car, things like that. So we're pushing for those big things all the time. But that worldly advantage means very little to a person because either you just spend all your time all day at home doing stupid things like trolling people, or you spend your time working jobs to try to get as much money as you possibly can to buy the next shiny thing. And what happens? It falls through. You look back on the time wasted in your perspective on it, and you're like, man, this was dumb. So let's talk a little bit about the Christian perspective, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Stoic perspective. James says in chapter 4, 1 through 3, from whence comes wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence even of your lust and in war in your members? Your lust have you not? You kill desire to have and cannot obtain. You fight and war, yet you have not, because you ask not. You ask and receive not, because you ask amiss, and you may consume it upon your lust. So you want all these things, you fight for those things, you are trying to achieve those things, but you find no pleasure in them. It's consisting of wars and stress and anger, and it's to try to get yourself above. And what the advantage comes from that is a disadvantage. Through all those things, now you are a more stressed, more angry, more insecure person. And so you take those things and you project them onto the other people's in your lives. And that's not a good thing. Seneca tells us we shall be able to reach the point if we understand that there are two kinds of things that can either entice or repel us. The enticing ones are wealth, pleasure, beauty, ambition, and everything else that is seductive and pleasing. We are repelled by physical work, death, pain, public disapproval, and austere diets. Hence, we should train ourselves neither to fear the latter things nor desire the former. We should contend against our inclinations, resisting the attractive things and advancing against those that assail us. Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for coming in. So he's asking us to change our paradigm on what we think is good. We want those things that, the beauty, the ambition, the very worldly things that come along with it. But the things that are most important are the things like understanding how death works, not fearing it, understanding it as a process of nature, understanding that hard work is the only way to achieve things in life, understanding that disapproval from society might be a very good thing. And that's the thing that we should be looking for. When people will say things against you, when they will throw things against you because they don't like who you are or what you represent, that might mean you're on the right track. So Seneca's telling you these are the things that we should look for as well. But I think in our society, the way we are, we don't see that as an advantage anymore. Disapproval, it's something that we want. We want to be liked by everybody. We want to go viral on every video we do. We want people to buy our products and enjoy our business. And that's understandable. That is what we work hard for. When that becomes the only obsession for us, when we become so focused, so single-minded on those things, we forget about everything else that's important to us. And this is where Stoicism really kind of intersected with my Christianity, where I said, wow, this is right. Again, two different perspectives 2,000 years ago telling me the exact same thing, that the things that I am trying to reach for in my life are not the things that matter most. Epictetus says, if it's good for me to have a plot of land, it's also good for me to take my neighbor's plot of land. If it's good for me to have a toga, it's also good for me to steal one from the bathhouse. This is how war starts, and civil strife, and tyranny, and intrigue. And that is how we think when we're trying to get ourselves over in society. I've got one thing, but I'd rather have my neighbors too. So I'm going to do something bad to them. I'm going to backtalk them. I'm going to steal from them. I'm going to do those things. So when we do that, we are starting wars, Epictetus said. Wars that we don't need to fight. Things that we don't need to achieve, that we feel like are the most important things in our life right now. We don't need them. Epictetus goes on to say, the point is that the root cause of passion is wanting something and not getting it. That's why if I'm able to alter my external circumstances to suit my wishes, I do so. And if I can't, I'm ready to gouge out the eyes of the person who's obstructing me. It's because it's human nature to find it unbearable to be deprived of something good or experiencing something bad. It's against human nature. We don't want to miss out. It is the whole thing. It's the fear of missing out on all of this. We want it all. And it's not fair that our neighbor has it. You can go check out our podcast. We actually did an episode on comparison culture last night. So you can go check out our podcast. But basically, we want what they have because we just don't have it. It's not because it's better. It's not because it's more value. It's not because it's going to advance us in life. We just don't have it. So we want it. And we don't understand why we work so hard, but they got it. So we start to resent. We pull up jealousy. We pull up envy. Things that we're taught as Christians are the worst possible things because those lead to other things. Those lead to things like going after your neighbor, murder, crime, cheating on your spouse, those things because we want what we don't have right now. And that is our single minded focus that we have. But Epictetus is not done. Let's go again. The most important and urgent of these domains is the one that has to do with the passions. A passion is only ever the result of frustrated desire or ineffective aversion. I like that. Let me say it again. A passion is only ever the result of frustrated desire or ineffective aversions. What can keep us from thinking this way or feeling this way? What can pull us away from that? That's the important thing. And they're ineffective. We set up goals instead of systems in our lives. The goal is to achieve the big title, the big name, the political power, the money, the prestige. The system should be when I start to go too far in the opposite direction and I take away from my wife and family, I'm going to pull myself back by taking 30 less minutes to work on business every day. That's the aversion that we can use to take ourselves away from that. I'm going to make sure that I'm spending time with my kids first at night before I go into the recording or the studio or the writing, those things like that. I am going to make sure that I start my morning off with a prayer to God and meditation in my life before doing my workday. Those aversions keep us from being so single-minded on just achieving throughout the day and then being upset when we don't reach those things. He goes on to say, this is the domain that entails mental turmoil, confusion, wretchedness, misery, sorrow, grief, and fear, and what makes us envious and jealous until we can't even listen to reason. That's a lot of stuff that can come your way when you don't have your priorities set, when they're not focused in the right direction. So, for instance, I believe that I can get my family to forgive the fact that I'm not going to see them for a couple of weeks here because I really have that shot at that big promotion. Ask yourself, if you achieve this, is it worth the time lost with your family? Now, you might quickly answer yes, absolutely, because this is going to be great and it's going to set up my family. So you kind of move yourself again towards that horizon. I called in the podcast Horizon Syndrome, where we feel like we're just there, we're almost there. Once we get the shiny apple and we have that and we pluck it, then we're going to be able to spend more time with our family and do the things that are most important and spend more time on our faith and stoicism and writing, all those things. But I just got to get there first. So they'll understand that I can't spend time with them. They'll understand that I can't be home. But what happens is when you pluck that apple, it's not as sweet as the next one that's down the road. So that horizon moves again. So that horizon syndrome of I'm almost there, I'm almost going to obtain this goal that I want will never happen because there always will be something else. And that's the whole point of both faith and stoicism, is that we need to be satisfied with what we have right now. Marcus Aurelius said, but the best is whatever works to my advantage, you say. Then study your advantage carefully. If it is to the advantage of a reasonable self, seize hold of it. If it's merely to the advantage of your animal self, admit it and don't try to pretend it's more than that. Only be sure of your judgment. If this really is something that is going to advance for the sake of the good of yourself, the good of your family, the good of others where you can contribute, then it's worth it. But if it only appeals to your base animal instinct of, I want to be the top predator, I want to have the most, I want to be the highest sought after, I want to be the one with the prestige that's talked about everywhere. If that's your motivator, then you failed before you started. And we've all fallen into that, I think. I know I have. Where I've just had to grab myself and say, what am I doing right now? What's the point of this? What's the focus of this? So I agree with Marcus Aurelius here. We fall victim into those things all the time. Let's take it back to the Bible here. Let's go into Mark, the 8th chapter, Verse 36 through 37. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? See, that's the difference. Very different between Christianity and Stoicism here. Is Christians are motivated by knowing that there is a life beyond this one. That all the worldly pleasures that we try so much to get our hands on will just be destroyed. It'll be corrupted by moths and dust, and it will become useless. But we have something to achieve that is beyond this life, which is a wonderful thing. Stoics did not have that external motivation. They were only good to be good. They felt that the highest form of happiness, eudaimonia as we call it, where that right here on my bracelet here, eudaimonia is virtue. Happiness through virtue. So they had no external motivators. They just either believed that they didn't know what happened when you died, or that your body just became particles that kind of drifted away. Marcus Aurelius himself said that. He said, I'm not sure if it's providence of God that we will go be with God after this, or if it's just particle, we turn to dust. But either way, if we are going to leave this life and God's there, he'll take care of us. And if we turn to particles, then who cares? So he was confused too. So that's the difference. As we believe for Christianity, there's an afterlife. And in Stoicism, the internal motivation is to just be a good person. And the Epicureans would argue that that's a waste of time. You're only here once. Just party it up, have fun, enjoy it. Yeah, sure, take care of each other and everything. And Epicureans believe that God existed but really doesn't care about us here. Once we got created, then he moved on to his other things, which, we don't believe in Christianity. But the whole motivation is for the Stoics was just be a good person. Now we get to put that in with Christianity and say, be a good person, serve God, and you have the added benefit of the riches and glory of heaven. So stop focusing on those things down here as much. Now keep in mind, it is absolutely okay to have money. It is absolutely okay to have wealth. It's okay to achieve things in life. That's fine. Seneca says you can have those things as long as they don't come at the hands of other people's blood. Cicero said the same thing as well. He is one of his 5 things that humanity gets wrong is that we step on others for our own glory and wealth. And so that is not acceptable. But you can have riches. You can have gain in your life. It's really what you do with those things after. If they're not your focus, you see them as a means to help other people, then great. They're blessings. Good on you. Solomon said there's nothing better under the sun to eat and drink to enjoy the time with your wife, Ecclesiastes 9. So we can have those things. But what we're talking about here is that our single-minded focus to just achieve in life because we want to have the most when we go. What are the people going to say at your funeral? Something probably all of us have thought in our head at one time. Is it better for them to say, this person really made it big in business. They became a billionaire. Their name was everywhere. That's great. Because trust me, those funerals will be very heavily attended by a lot of people that either got money, want money, or will get money off your name. Or do you want people to stand up at your funeral and say, this person was a good person. This person believed that there are things better than this existent life right here. And they always made sure that they were helping others, that they were giving to others. That's the kind of thing that you want to have said when all of this is done. Not that you had the biggest house, the biggest car, and the biggest bank account. And that's kind of where Christianity and Stoicism, it's the big Venn diagram of life right there. They both coincide on that. And that's important for us to have. Let's look at another one here. Romans 1:27, and receiving in themselves that recompense in their error, which was met. We will get what we do. We will get what we put into life. It'll be given back to us. If we chase for the glories of this earth, then we will get what we want, and that is the recognition of men. But that will die just like everyone else. Marcus Aurelius says, he gives a list of all these great men that happened. He said, you know what they have in common? They're all dead. All of them. They don't matter anymore. The recognition that we seek after we die is ridiculous. We're not going to care. We're not going to know. Posthumous recognition is worthless. Am I doing things now so that generations from now will think I'm great? I'm not going to know. They're not going to care. So we have to keep in perspective that we'll receive the reward that we want here on earth. But if we do, then we're going to have to pay for our error, which means we won't have that eternal life with God in heaven. Seneca said, those things we compete for, the things to which we devote so much effort, offer us either no advantage or greater disadvantage. Some are superfluities, others not worth the trouble, but we don't realize it. We think things come for free, when in fact their price is very steep. What is the price you're paying right now for the things that you're trying to achieve? Think about it. Is it your own mental health? I can point that finger at me, for sure. I am trying to do 15 things at once right now. I'm in a doctoral program. I am trying to get the business going. I work for an incredible company where I have to spend my time helping out to try to advance, and it's good things. I love all those things. They're wonderful things. They're things that push me and motivate me. But if I get too extended out, then where's my cost? I'm losing my mental stability. I'm losing relationships with my family. I'm losing relationships with God. I'm not studying the Word. I'm not reading books of stoicism. I'm not meditating. I'm not journaling. It's just devoted to those other things. And that's a cost that we have to pay. That's a price that we have to pay for that. We think things come for free when in fact their price is very steep. Here is what makes our idiocy quite plain. We think the only things we pay for are those we spend our money on. The things we call free are those on which we spend our very selves. Things we wouldn't be willing to pay for if it meant giving up our house for them or some pleasant or productive estate, we're quite ready to obtain at the cost of anxiety, danger, losing our freedom, our decency, and our time. We're not willing to give up our monetary things for the things that we want, but we're willing to put ourselves in harm's way, danger, stress, anxiety. We just do it so freely for that. He says, you see, we treat ourselves as if we were more worthless than anything else. And boy, that is just a jab in the heart right there. We treat ourselves as we're worthless. And it's sad because we're not seen that way in the eyes of God. We're seen as somebody very valuable. We're seen as children. Stoics did not see themselves as worthless at all. They were purveyors of virtue. They were there to be examples to others. They were there to make sure that they were following their core beliefs. They had a lot of value to who they were as people. But when we forget those things and we start pursuing after those other things, that is when we're treating ourselves as being worthless. We don't count. We don't matter. It doesn't matter that, Ryan's going to work 20 hours to try to pursue something that's probably going to be meaningless in a couple of weeks. So keeping our focus on what's important is the key focus of both Christianity and Stoicism when it comes to this. Seneca says, yet the greatest penalty for criminal acts and the acts themselves, and you are mistaken if you make them to wait for the prison or the executioner. Such acts are punished right away when performed, indeed in the very act of performing them. Our mistakes are our own punishment. That's something that we don't even talk about. When you think about it, the mistake itself is the punishment. The time that we've gone through, we've given up to pursue selfish things or pursue things that don't matter anymore, that's the punishment. It's the loss of time. It was the wrong thing to do. And again, he says such acts are punished right away when performed. Indeed, in the very act of performing them, as soon as I did it, I did the wrong thing. And it's going to hurt me some way. It's going to hurt my reputation. It's going to hurt my relationship with my family. It's going to hurt my relationship with God, my studies, things like that. So we have to make sure that we're pursuing the right thing as we go on. Seneca says again, because the first and greatest punishment for wrongdoers is the fact of having done wrong. No crime, even one embellished with the gifts of fortune or protected and safeguarded thereby, is free from punishment, since the penalty for crime lies in the crime. This falls exactly in line with the same thing that Christians believe as well. Case in point, King David. He did a terrible thing. He's up on the roof walking around. He sees this beautiful woman, Bathsheba, bathing, and he sends for her. Mistake number one. He knew what he was doing. He wanted her to come. Now he has the power of the king. He's probably a very attractive man. She decides that she wants to sleep with him. Mistake number two. He committed adultery with someone else's wife. And then when he has this amazing soldier, Uriah, who is just completely devoted to him, he tries to make it covered up by saying, Uriah, go sleep with your wife Bathsheba, because now I know she's pregnant. Uriah doesn't know that. Go sleep with her, and then she'll think it's your baby. The wheels turning in his head. There's mistake number three. But then Uriah says, I can't do that. I can't go be with my family because we are at war right now, and I need to sleep with the other soldiers. So David's very upset, and he tells his commanders, put him at the front of the line, because David knew that he would be killed, and killed quickly. Uriah marched valiantly into war for Israel, and was killed. Sin number 4. David had to face a punishment for the things that he did. And he did face a punishment. God took the life of his child. Seneca is saying the same thing here, that the penalty for the crime lies in the crime itself. If David got away with this, let's say that out of all 4 attempts and 4 sins that he did here, that David got away with it. Let's say Uriah helped win the battle and he came home and slept with his wife and she had this baby and he thinks it's his for the rest of his life. David will live with the consciousness from a righteous man that he did this, that he covered this up. There won't be one day, 1 week, 1 year that goes by without him thinking about it. The crime becomes the punishment himself, as Seneca says. So he would have to live with those things. Some would argue that David having to lose his son and then being blessed with another son right away with Solomon might have been the easier route, because he felt like there was an atonement given to God for that, and God punished him for that. And now he's blessed with a son that is going to later on become the king and take over his throne. But as Seneca said, that punishment is the crime itself. So we have to be careful about what we're pursuing, because it can come back on us. Lot from Seneca tonight, because he dealt with seeing Nero, Emperor Nero, in his court doing all of these horrendous things to people, having his mother killed, and having all these terrible things happen. And Seneca really had to reconcile what was going on. He said, for greed never goes unpunished, yet greed in itself is a punishment enough. What tears, what pain it costs us, how it suffers over what it lacks, and how it suffers over what it has acquired. There are the day-to-day worries too. The more a person has, the more anxiety they feel. Money is even more of a torment to those who have it than to those who are trying to get it. How they lament each loss for the loss of large sums and think them even larger than they are. Even if fortune takes nothing away from them, whatever they fail to acquire seems like a loss. And what better way to say it there? They feel like they have gained nothing, because despite the massive amount of wealth and fame, they still cry over the things they haven't achieved yet. They still cry over the things that are not in their grasp. And that's where the loss is. Seneca reminds us that the priorities we must have in our life is to reach for the good, to find our happiness and virtue, to help others. That is what brings joy with no complications. No complications. Wealth will bring complications. It has to, by its very nature. It's going to bring anxiety. It's going to bring distrust. It's going to bring excessive work. But when we help others, there's no complications. Well, Ryan, there's complications. I have to give up a Saturday to go help a friend. Good. Because that sacrifice did something for someone else that is going to help change their lives, even just a little bit. But I had to give up money that I could have used for my family to help somebody in need. That's okay. You'll get more. But you helped that family progress. And that was worth it. But Ryan, I had to give up the most crucial thing of all, what I wanted to do to help someone else. Good. You'll get more time to do it. But in the process, you helped someone else with their life get just a little bit better and a little bit happier because you were willing to give. Marcus Aurelius says, the sinner sins against himself. The unjust man does injustice to himself by making himself bad. Are you willing to live with everything you have knowing that you're a bad person? Now, again, let me say, you're not a bad person because you have wealth. You're not a bad person because you've achieved things. You're not a bad person because you put time and effort in. But if that is the whole representation of who you are as an individual, are you okay with being a bad person? That's what Aurelius is asking here. He wasn't, for sure. When Rome was suffering, when they had a plague going on, he started selling things out of the palace because they didn't mean anything to him. It wasn't like, I can't get rid of the paintings and the sculptures because those are things that we needed, we achieved. He said, take them because the health and the well-being of the people are more important. And that's what a leader should be. Another final one from Marcus Aurelius. Another's wrongdoing, leave it alone. I love it. So simple. Looking at what somebody else is doing wrong, don't even get caught up in that. Don't even put yourself in that situation. Don't even try to tempt yourself to do what they're doing because you know it's wrong. You see it's wrong. You see the ramifications of it. Set your sights on the virtues, not the achievements. Set your sights on the happiness and not the bank accounts. And if you do get blessed in this life, if God blesses you, if your hard work has gained you a net worth that's great, use it. Use it. Say what you will about Bill Gates and all the things that have gone around his personal life and things like that. He did say at one point, it gets ridiculous how much money some individuals have, and you must give it away because it's worthless when it gets to a certain point. When you've made so much money, it's now become worthless. It means nothing. You can have everything you desire. Start giving it away to people that it means something to. We can do the same thing. So that is going to be it for tonight, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. I want to do these live streams more. It's such an interesting world we live in, being a Christian student of stoicism, because they enhance each other. Ryan Holiday did a great article, of course, as he does all the time. He writes fantastic stuff, but he did a great article on Daily Stoic where he wrote about Stoicism and Christianity, and he said one fact is true: Christianity helps you to be a better Stoic, Stoicism helps you to be a better Christian. So when we're able to use both those things together, it makes us a better person in our lives. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time.